Let's talk feeling good in the body. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. Today I want to talk about body image, feeling good in your own skin, and reprogramming your brain from all of the messages that we are given in society, especially as women. If you've been following me for a while, then you probably know that talking about things like body image, body dysmorphia, diet culture, stuff like that is something I have been working through and dealing with for a very long time. If you're new to my content, I'm gonna give you a little brief summary of my extensive history with this issue. My body image issues started when I was like 4. I would actually go so far as to say I probably had serious body dysmorphia at that point in time, and I have been struggling with it my whole life. I tried my first fad diet when I was 8 years old. I was a lifetime member of Weight Watchers at age 11, so diet culture has been ingrained in me starting at a very young age. My weight has gone up and down over the years. I have tried almost every diet that exists. I've been successful at many of them. I've kept weight off for significant amounts of time, and it was actually quite a few years ago when I was getting ready to turn 40. I went on this absolutely obsessive fitness journey because I was going to be like fit by 40, and I took some pretty drastic measures, all diet and exercise, but I really pushed myself way beyond what I probably should have to get myself into the fittest I had ever been in my life at 40 years old. And now it has been 3 years, almost 4 years. I'll be 44 soon, before this video comes out probably, or around the time this video comes out. So it's been about 4 years since then, and I have gained a lot of weight in the course of that time. People love to point that out to me on social media. Not really the people that watch like my long form content. I feel like I get way more people in my long form content that are very wonderful and supportive. But on my YouTube shorts and Instagram content and even TikTok sometimes, I do get a lot of hate from people who look at me now and assume that I've always looked this way and pay no attention to my story, my journey, and make a lot of judgments about me based on that. I've talked about this before. My weight gain has been a conscious decision, and as I've said in other videos, I've hesitated talking about my experience with gaining weight and trying to heal my metabolism, primarily because in the past, like in my past, for most of my life, I became like obsessed with following certain celebrities, trainers, influencers, and trying to do what they were doing to try to get their physique or their body or achieve something. And I really like blindly followed a lot of things that other people were doing, and sometimes they were great learning experiences, sometimes they were helpful, but most of the time they ended up bringing me down a really dark path to hating my body even more and to becoming even more immersed in diet culture. And I wanted to share with some of you some of the things that I've learned from my experience of trying to break free of diet culture, try to really work through my body dysmorphia. I have a lot of people that ask me about, you know, for advice about how to feel good in your own body, how to feel more confident in your body. And I'm still a work in progress, but I really wanted to share with you some of the things that I've learned. But I also want to make a note that with any content, mine included, I want you to tune into your own body and really feel into your body as to whether or not something feels right to you or something doesn't. I don't want anybody to just follow anybody's advice, mine or anybody's advice, just blindly. So for starters, I've said this before, and I really want to get this through to people because this is an incredibly important message, particularly to women. I think men need to hear this too, but I think a lot of men that don't already think this are not going to listen. But for women, I want to get this through to you, that your body shape, body size, height, weight, your waistline, how your abs look, the size of your chest, your age, your skin color, none of those things have anything to do with connecting to your feminine energy. Nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. This was something that was a really hard thing for me to understand. I was happy when I heard this and when I really started to understand this, but it was a really hard thing for me to overcome. I've studied masculine and feminine energies with, readings and courses and programs and working with different mentors who are some of the most, I don't want to say revered, it's not really the word, but some of the top leaders in the masculine and feminine energy space. And all of the people at the top who talk about masculine and feminine from an energetic perspective, not like what makes you girly and what makes you manly, like not that kind of stereotypical stuff, but the energetic space, have all consistently put that forth, that feminine energy has really nothing to do with what your physical body looks like. It's only the people who really don't know this stuff, who don't understand this stuff, who haven't actually studied anything about the energetics. It's, you know, just the podcast bros who have a microphone and just go online and just start spouting stuff, and they have really no understanding or knowledge of these things energetically. Or I would say there's a female equivalent. There are some amazing people who are feminine energy coaches and things like that, but there's a lot of crap out there. And there are women out there who obviously don't understand what the energetics are of masculine, feminine energies, painting themselves as coaches, and they're the type of people that are like, oh, do Pilates, that will make you feminine, and that gives you a body that makes you feminine. And if you watch my video about masculine, feminine energy myths and fitness, which I'm very proud of that video, so please go watch it, I will debunk that. I'm not knocking Pilates. Do Pilates all day if you want. I love Pilates. I think it's a great workout, but Pilates doesn't make you feminine, and having a Pilates looking body doesn't make you feminine. It's only people that clearly do not understand the energetics of masculine, feminine energies that will tell you that it has anything to do with what your body looks like, which is really kind of my first big tip that I want to talk to you guys about, is like, cut the noise. Cut out the noise. And it is tough nowadays. I am not saying that anything I'm going to say in this video is easy. It's all stuff that we have to work on because there's so much noise in our society today. Everybody has a platform, everybody has an opinion, which in some ways can actually be a good thing in some cases, but it can also be really noisy and really hard to actually tune in and realize like what's true and what's not. One thing I got really caught up in, I know when I first started learning about, you know, feminine energy and started tapping into my feminine energy, doing a lot of inner work, most of the women I saw in the space that I was in, the women who were doing the work, the women who were the feminine energy coaches, women I'd worked with, or, you know, women I would just see online for inspiration, most of them all had the same look. They all had the same image. It was like that yoga woman look. Like they all had that long, lean body. They were always running on the beach in bikinis, and like nothing moved on them. Like everything was just like tight and toned, and they were just all petite. Sometimes they were tall, sometimes they were short, but they always looked like long and lean, and that was just their body type. And I don't know if they all had that body type naturally or if some of them were doing drastic things to get it. I don't know. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but they all seem to have the same body type. And for me, it was pretty triggering because I came of age in the 90s when the 90s supermodel craze was big, and for those of you that are kind of in my age range, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like that sort of long, lean, nothing on her body moves. Everything is straight up and down. Everything is just tiny and petite and small and skinny. Like it's just about skin and bones. Like if you can see every ab muscle, if you can see her rib cage, like just skinny, skinny, skinny. I found that very triggering because I was never gonna be that woman. Like I would be in a hospital before I was ever that body type. Like the amount of weight I would have to lose in order to be that, like, and I've been at like the thinnest weight that I was able to be safely for my body shape and my body height and my body size, and I'm never gonna look like that. Like that's just never gonna be my situation. Like my genetics are not going to allow that. So that was very triggering for me when I started to see women in the space like, oh, if I'm going to talk about feminine energy, I mean, I'm not really a coach, but if I'm going to be in the feminine energy space, I'm going to talk about feminine energy, but I don't look like that. Does that mean that I can't be in that space? Does that mean I can't talk about that? But for me, I started to realize that, you know what, there's a lot of women that don't look like that. A lot of women do, but a lot of women don't. If women don't talk about things like feminine energy, there's going to be a lot of women out there who are going to think it just doesn't apply to them because they don't have that body type. It got me really thinking about the fact that every single career, every single job, every single anything that I've ever done in my life, my body type has always been an issue. And I have been, you know, size ranges over the course of my life. I did fit into a size 0 skirt once, just once. I'm not made to be a 0. These are never gonna be in a size 0. But in reality, like dress size wise, I've been everything from like a size 6 to a size 18. So I've experienced life in a lot of different body sizes, and every body size I've ever been in has been some kind of an issue in some area of my life. Whether it was I was too big for something, or I was too small for something, or in my case I was too busty for something, or some area of my life, it's always been an issue. And to a certain extent, I really had to just accept the fact that, well, if it's always going to be an issue, then I need to stop worrying about trying to make my body into something else, because something else is just going to become an issue, and I really just have to let that go. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think eventually you get to a point where you realize that that's what you need to do in order to survive. Like, if you spend your entire life obsessing over trying to fit your body into a certain space or a certain environment or a certain size or a certain acceptable look, there's gonna be something else that's wrong. Like, if it's because you're not skinny enough, then you get skinny enough and there'll be another issue that will come up. And maybe even though you're skinnier, you're too curvy, or maybe you're too tall or too short, or maybe because you got skinnier, you lost some of your curves, or maybe you still have curves, or you know, or something. Like, there's gonna be some issue that somebody has with your body, and particularly as women, I think this affects us much more, is we're so defined by our physical appearance in every area. Like, you could literally be going into an area where you are just leading with your intellect, and your look will affect that. You could be going into an area that is all about your looks, and it's obviously going to affect that. As women, we are very much defined by our physical appearance, positive and negative. There's benefits to, like, what they call pretty privilege. There's benefits to being attractive in certain areas. There's negatives to being attractive in certain areas. You know, I've noticed in my experience, because I've been in rooms where most of the women were more attractive than me. I've been in rooms where I was by far the most attractive person in the room. I've been in a lot of rooms of different levels of attractiveness, and at the end of the day, you're always going to get judged. You know, if you're the most attractive person in the room, you're often going to become a target, maybe for other women who don't like you. There's going to be a lot of men who hold a lot of anger towards attractive women. There's going to be a lot of men who want to take advantage of attractive women. There's also going to be a lot of men who are like, hey, you're attractive, I want to be nice to you because I'm drawn to you. There's going to be variations. There's going to be women who want to be around you because they just want to be around someone who's attractive because they think they can benefit from you. I think most of us know what it's like to be in a room full of people that may be more attractive. It can make us feel really insecure. It can put us in comparison mode. We might not get treated as well or get as much attention as somebody who's more attractive. But the thing is that if you're just walking in these different rooms and you're being treated differently, it doesn't really have anything to do with how you look. It just has to do with the area you're in, right? And you can make yourself into something else or something you're not. And it's still all about, you know, your environment, the room you're in, where you are. And I think as women, we really need to let go of that need to constantly fit ourselves into the situation we're in. I think, you know, I'm not saying that we can't do things to improve our health, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I think we really need to let go of all that noise in our head that's telling us that we need to fit a certain look or a certain image in order to do something. Because I really think that holds many of us back. I mean, most people, but especially women, it holds us back. We start to think like, oh, well, women don't look like me in this space, so I'm not going to enter this space. You know what I mean? And this can go in different ways. I mean, for God's sakes, I mean, I just realized right now I'm kind of dressed like Elle Woods. I mean, could I get into Harvard Law? Well, probably not now. If I had tried when I was younger, maybe. But, you know, there's a lot of women with, you know, blonde hair and big boobs and wear hot pink that wouldn't think of becoming a lawyer, but you know, maybe they're smart enough to become a lawyer. There's a lot of women out there who, you know, again, wouldn't talk about something like feminine energy because they're like, well, I don't look like these, like, you know, lean yoga model looking women that I see on social media, or, you know, or things like that. It's, you know, we really have to start letting go of that we have to fit a certain look to do something, and just go ahead and do it, and just take the chance and focus less on constantly conforming ourselves to fit a certain image, and just following our dreams, following our instincts, following our creativity, and actually tuning into those things. I will say the criticism is tough. I have a really hard time with the criticism. I'm better able to handle the online hate and criticism now as an adult. And I also feel like too, when I get criticized for my weight or my appearance or something, what hurts me more now at this phase in my life is that there's gonna be women who are gonna see someone insulting me, and maybe they're bigger than me, or maybe they just don't feel like they're as attractive as me. I'm not trying to build myself up, but you know, they may see me all dolled up on social media and think, well, I don't look as pretty as her, when I'm sure you're beautiful, but at the end of the day, there's going to be women who are going to see that comment about me and start making it about them. Because I know I did that when I was younger. Like, I would see someone who I perceived as being more attractive than me, or at least as attractive, or maybe my size or something, and I would see someone insulting them and I would be like, oh my god, then how bad must I be? One thing that I really struggle with, and I think this is the Sagittarius in me, because I value honesty and authenticity so much. It's really hard for me when people make judgments about me that I know are not true. And one of the things I'm currently trying to work on is just accepting the fact that there are going to be people who just don't get me, or there are going to be people who just make up stuff or make assumptions about me that aren't true, and I don't have any control over that. And releasing that control has been a huge hurdle for me. Like, one of the things that really bugs me is when people make statements or assumptions or things that somebody who's overweight is undisciplined, lacks self-control, stuff like that. And I think from somebody like me who has been so immersed in diet culture, somebody whose structure and obsession around food and fitness for so many years has completely run my life, that now that I'm actually healing from that, the fact that somebody would now label me as being undisciplined or lacking self-control or something, because I've been so structured and so disciplined for so many years, and it's really broken me in so many ways. It's also frustrating because I have a better relationship with food now than I ever have in my life. For people to come at me and tell me that I don't have any self-control around food, which is not true. I have a better relationship with food now than I ever have, like ever in my entire life, even as a child. One of the main reasons why I gained the weight was because I basically decided that I wanted to heal my relationship with food, and I wanted to try to heal my metabolism, because I'm somebody who can eat a very normal, reasonable amount of food, and I carry so much more weight than the average person. So I'm going to tell you, I eat less than the vast majority of people I know who are skinny. Always have. And I've always been bigger than them. I've also always, in my life, always been more active than everybody I've known who has been skinnier than me. I've worked out more. I've done more exercise. I've been a more active person than every single person I've ever met who's skinnier than me has not been able to keep up with me. I've had very active careers. I've had very active jobs. When I see people say things like, oh, people who are overweight are lazy or undisciplined, it's like, most of the skinny people I know have been lazy and undisciplined. And they're skinny, so why isn't that assumption made about them? One of the things that I really do think is going on here is because I think a lot of the people that go online and want to insult people, call them overweight, call them undisciplined, say they don't have any self-control, say they're lazy, things like that. I think a lot of the people who go online and do that are people who, they never have profile photos, which I'm convinced if they were at all attractive, they would have a profile photo and probably a dozen selfies. So I guarantee you that these people are probably not people who have their lives together. However, I do think it's human nature to a certain extent to want to believe that if we follow a certain path, if we follow the XYZ path, we'll automatically get a certain end result. Like, I think it's a human nature kind of thing. Even if we're not doing this, like, we want to say, okay, if this is our end goal, if I do X, Y, and Z, I'll get to the end goal. Even if a person isn't doing it. So I think even if a person is just sitting at home, eating junk food, not taking care of themselves, or just sitting on the couch, probably in their parents' basement, and just hating people online, they want to think like, oh, if I just do X, Y, and Z, if I just get up off my ass and go to the gym once or twice a week, if I just stop eating these Cheetos that I'm shoving in my mouth, if I go for a walk or something, I'll automatically look like whoever that celebrity is that they think is perfect, right? If they see someone who doesn't look like that particular celebrity, they see someone that might be a little overweight, someone who might not be in a perfect, like, fitness model physique, they want to assume that that person is not going to the gym a couple days a week, that that person is not avoiding junk food, that that person is not, you know, going for a walk, that person's just lazy. They want to assume that that person is doing stuff wrong, because in their mind they want to believe that if they did X, Y, and Z, that they would automatically get end results. So if they see someone that doesn't have that end result, they have to believe that that person is just not doing X, Y, and Z. When in reality, you can do all those things. You can do all the things that I just listed, and you're probably not going to look like that fitness model, because that fitness model is probably doing a whole hell of a lot more than just the X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But people have this thing in their brain where it's like they're not going to do the work, but they have to believe that if they did do these things, that they would get that end result. And when they see someone in life that is an example of the fact that no, you can't just do these quick, easy things and automatically get this end result. They get mad and then they start projecting that anger out on them. I'm not saying that's 100%. I think there's a lot of people out there that just feel so bad about themselves that they want everyone to feel bad about themselves. I think there's also a lot of people who have dedicated their whole life to being thin and to, you know, being a certain body shape or body type, and they secretly resent the fact that they've dedicated so much of their life to that, that they resent other people for not doing that too. I relate to the aspect of actually resenting dedicating your whole life to sort of just being skinny or being a certain body shape. I don't hold anger at other people for choosing not to. So I don't really get that, but I understand the frustration a person would be in realizing that they've dedicated their life to something that I'm gonna say this because this is something that I've had to learn this lesson so many times in my life. So I want to share it with you, and most of you are probably gonna have to learn this the hard way, but I have to share this. When you get to your goal weight or your goal size or your goal body, you're still gonna have problems. I know that sounds really odd, but I was so 100% convinced that my weight was the source of all of my problems. So I would get myself skinny, which was never skinny enough. Like, for society, it was never skinny enough for me. Like, I look back at some old photos of myself and I'm like, oh my God, I look like a skeleton, but I still thought I was fat. I actually just saw a picture of me, I don't know if it was junior high or high school, and I was just like, I was so convinced at that age I was so fat. I thought I was so enormous, and I'm looking at this photo of myself and I'm going, girl, you were average size. Like, it's not, I mean, I wasn't tiny, but I certainly wasn't, I wasn't even overweight for somebody my height. I just didn't fit into the societal standard of what like the supermodels in the 90s looked like, right? But I really thought that, like, okay, when I lose the weight, I'll have my dream career. I'll have my dream man. I'll find love and everything will be perfect. And I'd lose the weight and my problems would all still be there. And not only would my problems all still be there, but I was hungry too. Like, I was hungry and miserable and sweaty. Nothing got solved. It didn't fix things. And I gotta be honest with you, when you're starving yourself, so you really are weak from hunger, you're sweaty all the time because you're constantly exercising, and you're exhausted from that, it makes dealing with a lot of life's other problems even more stressful. I'm not saying don't eat right and work out. I think those are important things. I think if you are gonna connect to your feminine energy, I think it's really important to take care of your body because your feminine energy is found in the body. So if you don't care for your body, this is your oracle. It's your oracle wisdom. Women hold so much beautiful knowledge in our bodies. If you don't care for that properly and you don't take care of that, you're doing your body a disservice. That said, taking care of it is not punishing it for not looking a certain way. I want to get back to a little bit about assumptions and things. I get a lot of people that assume that I have like no self-control around food. And I wanted to add to that because I have suffered from binge eating a huge amount of my life. Suffered with it a lot. And it was interesting because oftentimes my binge eating was emotional. I won't lie. But I started to realize that people were telling me that binge eating was emotional, and there were definitely times in my life when that was true. I'm gonna get emotional in talking about this. But I started to, because people were telling me that binge eating is emotional, it's just emotional, it's all emotional, I started to think that every time I had a binge eating attack that it was emotional. I will admit, and I've talked about this before, about having a moment, it wasn't the last time I binge ate, but it was one of my last major binges. I haven't binge eaten in years, and I'm very proud of that. I had a binge eating session that really stood out to me where I remember kind of like waking up in the moment, because oftentimes if you are binge eating out of emotion, you tend to kind of black out, like you're asleep to it. You know what I mean? Like you're not really present, right? And I started to realize I was in pain, and I remember floating outside of my body and saying to myself, like, stop doing that, you're in pain. Like, stop eating, you're in pain. And I said to myself, you don't deserve to not be in pain. And that was a huge wake-up call for me. I'm not saying that it stopped my binge eating completely forever, but it definitely was a wake-up call as to why I was binge eating. It was self-harm. I didn't believe I felt like I deserved to feel okay. It woke me up to a lot of things. I was getting involved with really bad men who didn't treat me well as a form of self-harm. It woke me up to so many things. I'm so grateful that I woke up to these things so I could start healing from them. That said, what that did was put me in this mentality of, oh, if I need to binge eat, it must be emotional. And sometimes it was. But what I came to realize after doing a lot of healing work was that sometimes my binge eating was emotional and sometimes it was physical. Meaning, sometimes it was because my body was like, you're not giving me enough food. I'm gonna make you feed me because I need to survive. For me, the only way that I could do that was to let go of my fear of gaining weight and heal my relationship with food. And I'm not gonna say that I've done everything right. I'm not gonna say that I've done everything perfectly. I don't want people to start emulating what I've done because I think everybody's individual. I had this realization recently because now that I don't put food restrictions on myself, I eat until I'm full, which for a long time was a lot of food because I wasn't used to letting myself eat like a normal person. So I was eating a lot, but I had to learn when to have natural hunger cues. I had to learn when I was full and what the feeling of actually being full was like, and learning that that's when you stop eating, which was very uncomfortable for a long time for a lot of different reasons. But since I took off the food restrictions, and bear in mind, when I say I took off food restrictions, I don't eat junk food because I'm not tempted by junk food anymore. I haven't been for many, many years. I don't really see junk food as food. Like, I bake bread every week, so I eat like bread that is now homemade because I really enjoy doing that. I enjoy baking, I enjoy cooking, so I cook all my own meals because I enjoy doing that. So I know what the ingredients are, and I am very mindful of the ingredients in my foods, but I don't, like, if I'm gonna eat bread, I bake it myself, which is my decision to do, but I let myself eat bread. There was a time knowing that there was bread in the house, like I know that there's bread downstairs in my house, I would literally obsess over, when is the next time I get to eat bread? I have bread in the house. When can I eat bread again? And if I would take off the reins and let myself, I would just sit there and eat a whole loaf of bread because I wouldn't be able to stop. I had this realization the other day that I was like, I have bread in the house, I've baked bread, I had a slice of bread yesterday. I didn't think about bread until the next day when it was like lunchtime and I was like, I'm gonna have a piece of bread. It's not sitting in my head, I'm not obsessing over it. I'm talking about it now because I'm talking about it on camera, but like, I do other things and I don't obsess over it. I baked cookies the other day. The fact that like I had a cookie and then I just kind of didn't think about the cookies again until like the next day when I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna have a cookie for dessert. I did not obsess over it, and I got so emotional because I've never in my life been able to do that. Like, ever. I've always been somebody that, like, if I knew there were cookies in the house or I knew there was bread in the house or some kind of carbs are my thing, right? I would just obsess over it. I'd be like, when is the next time I get to eat it? I would be like calculating like, oh, is it too soon? Is it too soon to eat this now? It became an obsession. Some of that was emotional, and I think when I was younger, it was definitely emotionally driven. But now I've realized that because for so many years I was restricting myself, it was because my body was like, hey, I need food. Like, I want you to eat food, and I wasn't eating enough food to fuel my body. I was over-exercising, I was under-eating. In order to reset my brain, my everything, I needed to let myself gain weight because I needed to let go of that fear of gaining weight. It was hard. I didn't like gaining weight. I didn't want to gain weight, but I had to let go of the fear of it because that was the only way I was going to heal. It was the only way I was going to be able to just like live in a world where I could have some kind of sweets in the house and not obsess over it, where I could bake something that I enjoy eating and like eat a little bit of it and not worry about it. It's just so ironic to be living in a world where I'm like, oh my God, my relationship with food now is something I never thought was even possible for me. Like, I'm so, I can't express to you how happy I am that I've healed this relationship with food. And as much as I know it doesn't matter, it is difficult when I'll see someone online make a comment about like, put down the cake or put down the cookies. And I know that opinion doesn't matter, but it's also like, do you know how many years I didn't eat cake or cookies? Do you know how many years I never ate dessert? That I talked about this in another video, but I was terrified to eat carrots for years. I was terrified to eat carrots because I thought that they had too many carbs and too much sugar. Carrots. Like, that's how obsessive I was about food. So the fact that I can actually like bake chocolate chip cookies and I can eat a cookie and then just not even think about it until like the next day when I eat another cookie is such a big step for me. It's such a big step, and I will admit it hurts sometimes because it feels like I know I'm doing the right thing, but when you start getting judgment from the outside world, of people encouraging you to have an eating disorder, let's just say it's frustrating. So another aspect of tuning out the noise, and this is something that I think we need to do ourselves, but we also need to do as a society, is to stop glorifying eating disorders and people literally mutilating their bodies in order to look a certain way or achieve a certain look or image. I'm big on personal freedom, so I get it. I think, you know, adults can decide to do what they want with their bodies. That said, the fact that we are putting such unhealthy behaviors up on pedestals in the name of people looking healthy is so twisted. Here's the thing, and this is coming from somebody who's had pretty dramatic weight losses in her life. So I've heard all the things, I've heard all the compliments, I've gotten the praise, I've been through that. But I'm gonna tell you a really important lesson that I've learned. If somebody only cares that you lose weight and they don't care how you lose weight, then they don't actually care about your health. This is my hill. That yes, being overweight absolutely has health side effects. However, most of the things that people are doing nowadays in order to get skinny or get healthier looking are incredibly unhealthy. Skinny does not equal healthy in the same way that being larger does not automatically equal unhealthy. And I will stand by this hill. Now, I am not saying that people should be going out, force feeding themselves food, and people should just say, to hell with exercise, I'm just gonna sit on the couch and eat Cheetos all day and I'm just gonna gain 1,000 pounds and I'm gonna call myself healthy. I'm not saying that. But what we have in our brains as what's considered healthy and what's not considered healthy as far as body shape is totally screwed up. It is absolutely screwed up. And I know this too because I actually made a video talking about the Kardashians, and I was talking about the fact that Khloe has been criticizing her old body and talking about how big she was and whatever, and Kourtney was trying to tell her that she was never that big, and Khloe is just bashing her old self and her old body. And if you look at old pictures of Khloe, Khloe has never been overweight. Khloe is 5'10". She has never been in an unhealthy weight range for somebody her height. But when I posted that statement, I had all these people that were like, no, she was huge, no, she was obese. Even if you want to argue that Khloe was overweight for her body height and her body shape, she's never been obese. Like, obesity has never been on her radar in the entire time she has been in the public eye. The fact that we think that somebody who just may be in the upper range of a healthy body weight is automatically like obese is really screwed up. Like, the idea that you have to be like a size 0 in order to be healthy is absolutely mental. Because the vast majority of women are not going to be healthy at a size 0. We have this obsession in our society with women weighing 120. Like, it's an obsession. I don't know where that number came from or why all of a sudden we created this number as like 120 in a woman is the ideal weight. But I know when I was younger, I was in my 20s, I became obsessed with the idea of being 120. I was gonna do anything to get there. I actually was competing in a beauty pageant. I competed in the Miss Massachusetts USA pageant. I didn't win. I was also the only blonde in the competition, which is weird. That's New England for you. But I became so obsessed with getting to 120. This was like 20 years ago. And I remember I got to 123. The fact that I remember exactly what I weighed like 20 years ago is really insane. I remember I got to 123 and I could not get the scale to budge anymore. Some of this is my build and my body shape. My hip bones were sticking out of my body and were protruding so much that like I couldn't sleep because I couldn't get comfortable because there was like literally no padding on my hips. Because I don't carry weight in my hips and my butt or my lower body. I carry all of my weight in my upper body. So my boobs were still huge and I didn't have abs, but like my hip bones were jutting out of my body so much that it was like painful. It was painful to sleep. I couldn't really get comfortable ever. I was barely eating anything and I was working out. Like, I was doing cardio like probably for 4 hours a day. Like, I remember I was doing 1,000 crunches a day. I got obsessed with it because I read somewhere that Janet Jackson did that. So I would literally, like, anytime I would go to like eat a meal, which would literally be just like a little something, I would have to do like a couple hundred crunches, and then I would like calculate, and by the end of the day I'd do 1,000. Like, that was my life. And I got myself to 123, and that's as low as I could go. If I had actually continued to lose weight, I probably would have ended up in a hospital. And I'm a very average height woman. I'm 5'6". Not every height and every build is supposed to look that way. If I was, say, like Khloe Kardashian's height and I was 5'10" and I tried to get to 120, my God, I would look like a skeleton. We get these ideas in our head where we start promoting these things as like, this is the goal for health, when in reality, like, health should be a goal for us. Having a healthy body and a healthy lifestyle is absolutely important, but thinking that health has to look a certain way can get us into an obsession of doing some really unhealthy things with our bodies. And that's why, like I say, if somebody only cares that you lose weight and they don't care how you lose weight, because there's a lot of unhealthy ways. I tell people all the time, when people are like, you'd be healthier if you were skinnier. Well, meth addicts are skinny. Would I be healthier if I was a meth addict? Probably not. And when people say when you're overweight, you don't have self-control. Well, again, meth addicts are skinny. They have more self-control. They have more discipline. I actually, oh my God, I usually get online hate from men. Typically, if I get women that disagree with what I have to say, more often than not, like, it's not gonna be like blatant hate. It's gonna be like, they're gonna argue with what I have to say, and I can handle that, that's fine. But I did have a woman that had targeted me online not too long ago. She was really, really trying to, like, not only tear me down, but she was trying to like recruit other people to tear me down. It was such a mean girls thing. It was ridiculous. I happen to know for a fact that this girl got knocked up to trap a guy. And she was literally spewing all this stuff about how I was so fat and ugly and gross, and I should go to the gym, and I should have some self-control and discipline around food, because all this stuff. It's like, I'm the one that needs the self-control and discipline. Like, I'm the one that needs help. Really? Projection much? Leading a healthy lifestyle and making healthy choices with your life is absolutely, absolutely important. When we glorify things like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it, Ozempic and anything Ozempic related, and I know that I'm not a big fan of pharmaceuticals in general. I'm not a big fan of pharmaceutical companies in general. That said, if you have made a decision with your doctor because you have a medical condition where there are certain things like, you know, Ozempic or things like that, and you've weighed the risk reward as far as, you know, if you are diabetic or something with your doctor, and you make that decision from an informed place, your decision, I honor that. If you are trying to get Ozempic just so that you can lose the last 10 or 15 pounds, you are literally exposing yourself to something that is known to potentially cause cancer, and that's only one of the potential side effects. There's a whole long list of potential side effects that you're opening yourself up to. I'm sorry, but if you have to inject something into your body that is likely to cause cancer to be healthier, that is not health, okay? That's not what health is. The idea that there are people who, they get regular exercise, they eat a really well-balanced diet, like, that's health. And that health may be someone who's naturally very thin. It may be somebody who has an average size build. It might be somebody who just naturally has a bigger size build. That can exist in a lot of different forms. But having to look like the person who is naturally skinny is not health. And the fact that we glorify celebrities, I understand, and I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, okay, skinny people get a lot of crap too, and I understand that. I will say that as someone who is, I've never really been like underweight, so to speak, but as somebody who's been thinner and somebody who's been bigger, I can tell you right now that any hate you get as a thin person is not even in the same universe as people who are overweight or obese. It's not even in the same universe. It's not. That said, any kind of body shaming of any shape or size or anything is not acceptable. I don't condone that. And I do realize there are going to be people who I know are thin, who struggle to gain weight, who are self-conscious because they don't have as much of a feminine shape. Like, I understand that there are women out there who are going to be in that situation who are going to be self-conscious, and I understand that. And there are going to be people who are going to say things to them like, oh, you have an eating disorder or something like that. And I'm not saying that that's right. However, when you are someone, I know, like myself, who has been in diet culture, who has been in this world of body dysmorphia, who has been in this space of gaining and losing weight and things like that, you get really good at telling when somebody is like naturally thin and when someone has an eating disorder. Because if somebody is naturally thin, like somebody who's just making a quick judgment about them may look at them and be like, oh my God, they need to gain weight, or like, oh my God, eat something, or oh my God, you have an eating disorder. They may jump to that, but if they really looked at that person is probably not gonna look sickly. That person is probably not gonna look drawn. Like people with eating disorders very often have like they look malnourished, right? And if you're naturally thin, people may jump to a conclusion because you're naturally thin, but you're probably not gonna look malnourished. Whereas there are a lot of women now, and I've been seeing this a lot lately, where these women are sort of like showing off their body transformations, and you take one look at their face and you're like, oh my, you can see the malnourishment in their face. Like you can see they don't look better. Like they don't look healthier. They look sickly. I think Gwyneth Paltrow is the case of that. I mean, I'm happy that Gwyneth is like embracing aging, but Gwyneth is not that much older than I am. And she doesn't look well, like at all. And I don't say that in a way as like somebody, you know, can't have wrinkles or whatever. Like I'm all for people in Hollywood embracing their natural aging process. However, if your aging process is happening dramatically and at a much younger age because you're not actually nourishing your body and caring for your body correctly, that's not health. It doesn't matter if you're thin, it's not a healthy way to live. And you know, I mean, this is not just the eating disorders. I'm gonna tell you right now, and I know a lot of people don't want to believe this, and a lot of people want to argue about this. I would say probably 99%, and I'm being generous, probably 99% of celebrities have some kind of eating disorder. Most women have some kind of eating disorder, let's be real. I mean, I think for a long time, like I grew up in the generation of like anorexia and bulimia were the only eating disorders, and there's so many variations of that. But most of the women that you see in Hollywood have eating disorders. I'm also gonna say this, that I'll say 99%. I believe it's 100, but I'm gonna say 99% of all celebrities that we see have had major plastic surgery. All of them. Like none of them are natural. Even the ones, it's funny how I'll see people that will compare an actress when she first entered Hollywood to her, like say in her 30s or something, and they'll be like, see, she hasn't had any plastic surgery. I'm like, no, compare their high school photo, like before they got famous. Like they had major plastic surgery to get famous. They may not have had a lot of work done since then, but like they all do. It's weird now that I'm paying more attention to it, because like I've never been self-conscious about my nose. Like I'm cool with my nose. Like in fact, I never even really thought much about my nose until filters started coming out. Like when you put a filter on your face, it like makes my nose look all weird, and I'm like, but I've started to notice that like everyone in Hollywood has the same nose. Start realizing that like, oh my God, like we're only used to seeing the same nose like all the time, because we're not used to seeing women who haven't had nose jobs. It programs our brain to think that there's like one nose that everybody should have. I mean, it's literally we're making each other into clones, and we need to stop celebrating this. It's mutilating your body. It's literally just an expensive version of cutting. Like when teenage girls like cut themselves, you're just paying somebody else to mutilate your body is what you're doing. All the breast implants, which I realize I'm biased because I've never needed them, but we also glorify women for having these breasts that just like levitate in the air. They don't look natural, they don't look real. And then we tout these women as having curvy bodies when they really don't. BBLs, don't even get me started on BBLs, which are first of all the most dangerous like cosmetic procedure on the planet. I won't even get into that, but like these things are incredibly dangerous, and we put these women up on a pedestal and celebrate it. Now, I'm not saying we should shame women for this. However, we have to stop celebrating it. We have to stop. Like there was a study that said something about like someone reported that Bella Hadid had like the most perfect face proportionally. It's not real. It's not her real face. Like, I mean, and I've seen old pictures of Bella Hadid. She was a beautiful girl, absolutely stunning. I think she looks like an alien now. And I don't say that to like hate her or shame her. I realize that she has done all this stuff to herself out of societal pressure, and it's not a jealousy thing. I know that there's gonna be a lot of guys who are gonna be like, you're just jealous. No, because any of us could have just gone to the right plastic surgeons if we had access to the money and just made ourselves look like that. That's not an achievement. That's not something we should celebrate. In fact, ooh, I don't wanna get on this. Ooh, sometimes I'm like, should I say it? Should I not? I'm gonna say it. I don't want to get into a transgender debate at all with people. However, I saw this picture somebody was posting. It was a picture of a transgendered woman, I think that's the right term. And then it was like a bikini model who was a biological woman. They were like, only one of these is a real woman or something like that. And I was like, okay, I get the point they're trying to make and everything. However, the bikini model that probably was a biological female clearly had had a lot of work done. Like, clearly she was not natural, and the image was absolutely photoshopped. So I'm like, are we really gonna call that a real woman? Because that's not anything that nature has produced. Is she a biological female? Yeah, probably. And I'm not gonna get into a transgender debate here. However, we can't criticize transgendered people for deciding that giving themselves secondary sex characteristics like breast implants or something is not an acceptable form of making them a woman if we're going to define women as how much plastic surgery they can get to enhance certain secondary sex characteristics. It's just very hypocritical to me. We need to stop glorifying this idea of womanhood and this completely fake. It's fake. It's not real. You know, and we need to start encouraging women to actually embrace what is real. And we need to stop glorifying women who basically mutilate themselves in order to fit some kind of beauty standard. Because the trends keep changing. And I can tell you from somebody who grew up in the 90s with the 90s supermodel trend, and then I know that there's girls who are growing up now comparing themselves to the Kardashians who are gonna start going the 90s supermodel trend. You can see it right now with their like Ozempic faces and bodies. I don't know if they're really using it, but they're getting like freakishly skinny, and they have the money to just keep mutilating themselves into, and I'm gonna keep calling it mutilating because that's what it is. Like, we need to stop encouraging people to mutilate their bodies and to just make themselves into something completely different. It's just getting so bad. Filters and the AI and is just like a whole, we're basically training society to see these fake mutilations of women and not actually, like, we're getting so far away from what women are actually supposed to look like that it's actually getting freakish. And when I say that, like, I don't mean that there's like one specific image of like what a woman should look like. I don't believe that there's one body type that we're all meant to look like, because I think we're all meant to look different. I think we're like flowers. The world would be so boring if there was one type of flower, like one type of plant, or there was just one type of sky, you know what I mean? Like it's the beauty of seeing the sky at different times and seeing, sometimes you see a cloudy sky, sometimes you see, you know, a big blue sky, different flowers, like everything. Like, nature is meant to look different, to look varied. And that's what's beautiful. And I think that women need to start embracing the fact that we're all meant to look unique. We're all meant to look different. We're not all meant to look like clones or to look like some kind of computer generated image that we're being told that we need to look like. We're not supposed to be mutilating our bodies or starving ourselves. Like, and we need to stop celebrating the women who do that. And I'm not saying that we need to be shaming the women who do that, because I realize that most of those women are just giving into societal pressure. But if we stop putting women like that up on a pedestal, we can really start seeing some change in society, which we desperately need. Okay, I also, generally speaking, my advice to women from my years and years and years of working alongside men and talking to men and dealing with men is, please don't listen to men. Men will say things and their actions never line up. Men will tell you what they think you want to hear. Like, unfortunately, we have a society of men that like will not give you a direct answer. They'll tell you they're going to give you a direct answer, but they're not going to. They will argue to the end of time. The more a guy argues with me about this, the more likely it's true. Guys will throw out that like their top criteria and what they want in a woman is fit. They'll say fit, feminine, submissive. Like, those are the three, right? Well, first of all, fit is not feminine. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be fit, you can't be healthy, you can't work out, and also be in your feminine energy. You absolutely can. However, discipline, structure, all the kind of things that are involved in fitness are masculine. And I've said this in another video, and I'll say it again. If a man is celebrating your masculine qualities when it makes you fit or look like a certain body shape or a certain body type, but they shame your masculine qualities that it takes for you to build a business, build a career, or something like that, they're not actually shaming your masculine qualities. they only want your masculine qualities when it benefits them, and they don't want your masculine qualities when they perceive that it emasculates them. So you need to be really careful of men who talk like that. You need to be really careful of men that have that mentality, because there's a lot of men that will shame you for having masculine qualities that make you succeed at business, but celebrate your masculine qualities when it makes your body look a certain way, because they perceive a benefit from your body looking a certain way, but they don't perceive the benefit from you having a successful career. And in reality, the qualities it takes for you to be a great business career woman are probably the same qualities it takes for you to be like fit and in shape, right? They're both masculine qualities. Not saying whether you should have them or you shouldn't have them. It's your decision as a sovereign being. But that said, you need to be really careful of men who will celebrate your masculine qualities when it benefits them, but will bash you for having masculine qualities when it doesn't benefit them or when it's perceived as intimidating to them. I know, men always want to say that they're not intimidated by women, but let's be real, they are. So in reality, if a guy thinks that being fit has anything to do with being feminine, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because it really isn't. Having structure, discipline, you know, all the kind of stuff it takes you to be like a fitness person in the gym has nothing to do with being feminine. Being healthy and treating your body well is something everybody should do, and it absolutely is part of being a feminine being. However, manipulating your body into looking a certain way fitness-wise is not feminine at all. So don't get that twisted. I also had this realization too, because I've heard so many guys talk about what they want in a woman is fit, or they want a woman who's fit or whatever. Men don't actually want a woman who's fit. They want a woman who's frail, I would say, especially if they're a weaker man. They need a woman who's weaker than them. But they also want women who are just naturally biologically thin. Because I had this realization, because for me to be thin, to be in a societally acceptable body size, I have to take some pretty drastic measures to get there. And I've done that plenty of times in my life. But I have to be incredibly structured about what I eat. I have to be incredibly careful about what I eat. I have to dedicate a huge amount of time to fitness, exercise. Like, that's the only way that I have ever been able to be in a societally acceptable body size. And plenty of times in my life, I have absolutely dedicated myself to doing that. However, in every relationship I have ever been in, every guy I've ever dated found what I had to do to be thin to be an inconvenience to him. They liked the fact that I was thin in most cases, but they didn't like what I had to do in order to get there. There's a couple different reasons for that. For one, there's a lot of guys out there who don't like when something else takes up your time. Because if you think about it, if you're working out and dedicating time to working out, it's perceived as something you're doing for yourself. Although there are a lot of us that work out oftentimes, and I have at certain points in my life and not other times. Working out sometimes for women can feel like you're doing it for somebody else. It's perceived as like time for her, right? There's a lot of men who cannot handle when women have to dedicate that much time to something that is for them and not something for the man. So oftentimes that dedication that you have to working out takes away time that they perceive you should be spending on them. So they view it as an inconvenience. The second thing, and some men fall into some of these categories and some don't, but the second reason is there are a lot of men out there that perceive the having to put in work to stay thin for women as being too high maintenance. It means spending money either on a gym membership, or for me, I set up a home gym in my house, which, you know, was expensive because it was equipment and stuff like that. You know, it can also mean having to spend money on like new workout clothes, because maybe you go through sneakers faster or something like that. Or if you are losing weight, you have to, you know, update your workout clothes a lot. Oftentimes, you have to spend more money on food, because you're not just gonna eat the cheap junk food. You're gonna spend more money on quality foods. You're not gonna go to just cheap fast food restaurants, because they're not gonna have healthy options. No matter what they say, they don't actually have healthy options. You're gonna wanna go someplace that has like quality meals, which is probably gonna be a nicer restaurant. You're gonna be perceived as being high maintenance. So that guy is gonna like the result of your maintenance, but he's not gonna wanna be a part of maintaining you. And the third aspect is that there are going to be a lot of guys who are not going to like the fact that a woman's dedication to her fitness, her health, is going to be better than his, and it's going to point out his shortcomings. The reality of the situation is it is much easier for men to get fit and stay in shape and get lean and burn body fat than it is for women. Now, the reality is women are supposed to carry more body fat than men, because as women, we have more internal reproductive organs that we need you know, a certain layer of body fat. I'm not talking about being huge, but you need a certain layer of body fat to protect. Women are supposed to be softer. Women are supposed to have a softer shape. We are not designed to have six-pack abs. The vast majority of the time, and I know people don't want to hear this, but the vast majority of the time, if you see a woman's ab muscles, her hormones are probably screwed up because she's probably not eating enough food. Women are not supposed to have like cut ab muscles. So you're not supposed to see them. That's not 100% of the time, but the vast majority of the time, women are supposed to carry a certain level of body fat. Men don't need that level of body fat. In fact, men are supposed to be leaner because they're supposed to be better able to fight. They build muscle easier because they have more testosterone. This is all biology. So most men can get by in life with a certain level of fitness and health and, you know, be sort of average, right? But if a woman has to work extra hard in order to be seen as an acceptable body size by society, it very often is more dedication than what he has. Oftentimes, even if the woman isn't deliberately trying to shame the man for not doing as much as far as working out as her or not eating as healthy as her, he'll feel that like, oh my God, she's better at this than I am. She's fitter than I am. She's more dedicated to the gym than I am. Like, they'll perceive that as emasculating, even if the woman is not doing that intentionally to emasculate him. Because in reality, if she has more structure and discipline than he does, if she's more dedicated, if she has more drive, if she has more direction and vision, she's more in her masculine than he is. That's gonna throw off the polarity. He's more in his feminine of being laid back and going with the flow. And that's just one area, but I'm just saying, like, it's something that I have noticed, and like some men will fall into certain categories and some won't, but generally speaking, there's a lot of men out there who want the benefit of having like a thin, attractive woman who is, you know, attractive by societal standards because they can feel like they won because she's really an accessory for them. And he's not going to humanize them anyway. But he doesn't like what she has to do in order to be that way, which is why men they'll shame women for being overweight, but then they'll choose a woman who is just genetically predisposed to being thinner because then she's less high maintenance, but he gets the benefit of having a thinner woman. You know, I'm not somebody who's gonna sit here and like start shaming people's preferences. Who you choose to date or who you're attracted to is not my business. I am gonna say though that if you're gonna shame any woman for not being genetically predisposed to being thin, that is literally not something that any of us have any say in. We can't actually choose whether our genetics tell us that we're going to be thin naturally or that we're going to gain weight easily. We have a certain level of control over how much we weigh or how much weight we can lose, but genetics do play a big role in that. And whether or not you are naturally thin or whether or not you are naturally a larger person is the same as height. You have no say in that whatsoever. So I find it funny that men will get so like caught up in this whole idea of height, which is so over exaggerated with men, I swear to God, because I know women do prefer taller over shorter, generally speaking, but men honestly like get caught up in that so much more than women ever will. And the argument is true that men do have absolutely no control over their height. Their height it's genetic, it's biological, they can't control that. And I get that, it's a valid point. However, whether or not a woman is predisposed to being naturally thin or whether or not she is somebody who has to work at being thinner is also completely beyond her control. That's not something that she has any say in. That's completely genetics. Now, what people do with that stuff is you know, a lot of lifestyle and hormone issues and environment. There's so many different aspects to that. So I'm not saying that weight is completely outside of a person's control, but whether or not a person naturally is thin or naturally struggles to get thin is absolutely a genetic thing that we have no control over. So ladies, stop listening to men. That's the gist of that. I could have just summed that up in a quick statement. Ladies, stop listening to men. They don't know what they're talking about. A couple more tips that I want to throw out there for you. One big mindset shift that I have been working on. I still struggle with it, but it's been a huge game changer for me as far as, you know, my relationship with my body and particularly my relationship with like exercise and diet culture and things like that. Primarily exercise, is start separating exercise from how your body looks. I know that's tough. It is so tough. It's actually one of the reasons why I kind of stopped lifting, because I was doing a lot of like lifting, bodybuilding, things like that. Not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that you should stop doing that at all. I think that you need to feed into your own body as to whether or not you think that's appropriate for you or not. And I actually have a whole video talking about masculine, feminine energies and fitness myths, and I encourage you to watch that because I go into that a lot deeper. However, for me, I couldn't get past the connection between doing this exercise and then like, how does my body look? And I made the decision I was gonna separate exercise from how my body looks and start focusing on fitness goals and body goals that were not aesthetic. We get so caught up in our society and thinking that the only like fitness or health goal anyone can have is simply to lose weight. And in reality, there are so many other fitness and health goals that you can have. I love shifting the focus from things that are aesthetic to things that you actually like feel, or you know, goals or dreams or pursuits that you have, and trying to fit your fitness into that as opposed to the physical aesthetics. So instead of programs like, you know, I don't know, how to get the best butt, or like 10 days to the ultimate abs, or like doing stuff that is so focused on, you know, your physical aesthetics, think about some of your dreams or experiences that you really want to have in your life. Maybe your ultimate goal is to one day be an active grandparent and like go to the park and play with your grandkids. How can you set up like a fitness program and a lifestyle now that will support your longevity, that will support you being like active and mobile later in life, right? Having that as a goal of that experience that you want to have is going to be a lot more motivating, and it's going to take the pressure off of having to have your body look a certain way. I actually found it funny, there was that Peloton commercial that had everybody so pissed off. I think it was a few years ago, where this guy bought his wife like a Peloton for Christmas, and she was a pretty thin woman, and so everybody was taking it as like him telling her she was fat. And she was, in the commercial, she was saying like, oh, I'm so much closer to my goals and whatever, and everybody was like, she's thin, like why are they obsessing with her being thinner? And I was like, well, they never said her goal was thinness. And I don't really know what their intentions were. I mean, I don't really trust most advertising, but the fact that everybody went to, this is a thin woman, like why would she feel like she needed to lose weight? Because they were assuming that her goals were to lose weight. Maybe this woman had always wanted to compete in a triathlon. This was her way of biking. Maybe she really enjoyed biking, but she didn't live in an area where there were a lot of bike trails. Maybe she'd always dreamed of going on like a biking trip in Europe or something, and this was her way of getting herself ready for that. We don't know. I mean, this was a commercial, it was a made-up person, so we don't really know what the context was. But like, there's so many other reasons why people could want to exercise and participate in fitness. Maybe you have a dream vacation you've always wanted to go on, and there's some activities on that vacation that you really want to participate in, and you want to get your body stronger or more flexible or something for that. Like for me, I love dance. I love to dance, and times in my life when I embrace dancing are the happiest times of my life. Like I love taking dance classes, doing dance classes. I just love everything about them. So for me, when I'm actually like in my workout time, my priority right now is more on flexibility. It's more on training my body to do certain dance moves better. That's my goal right now. It's not like, oh, can my butt look this way? Or can my abs look this way? It's more like, hey, how do I strengthen my core so I can do these dance moves and I can have better balance, and or I can be more flexible. And I'm gonna focus on stretching right now, because honestly, like lifting a ton of heavy weights, it's just not my priority right now. And focusing more of your fitness time on something that is an experience that you wanna have, or something that you long to do. There was a video that went viral a while ago with a guy who was talking about how everyone kept telling him to lose weight. He needed to go to the gym and he needed to lift weights, but he wanted to run every day. And he was like, you know what? I realize that lifting weights might be the ultimate way for me to get, you know, a certain body type, but the reality is I enjoy running, so I want to run every day, and that motivates me to do it. And because I enjoy it, I'm going to do it. The best exercise routine is literally the one you're going to do. And I think especially as women, we can get so caught up in like, oh, I have to do this workout because this is going to get me this body part that's the best, and I need to do this workout that's going to be, you know, this body part that's the best. And we get totally duped by most of these fitness people are either, which this opened my eyes, that most of these fitness women are using some form of like steroids or some kind of something like that, which, you know, if you choose to do that to your body, you choose to do that to your body. But to me, it's the same kind of thing as the eating disorders, the Ozempic, the, you know, the plastic surgery. It's not full disclosure. Like, I think if you're gonna sell someone something, you absolutely should have to have full disclosure about what it is that you're doing, you know. But it's the same as people who are just genetically predisposed. Like, I can't tell you how many fitness influencers I've followed to try to get tips on how to like grow my butt. And these are women who simply carry more weight in their butt than other people. So they're like, eat more calories and you'll get a bigger butt. Well, they do, because that's where they gain weight. For me, like, I gained a significant amount of weight in the last few years while I've been healing from diet culture, while I have been healing my metabolism. I've gained a lot of weight. My butt and hips are really not that much bigger than they were when I was significantly thinner. I actually wear the exact same size underwear and leggings that I did quite a few pounds ago, because I just don't gain weight there. So like, my butt and hips right now are probably about the size that they should be for someone my height. It's just the rest of me has grown. So like, I can do those same workouts and do the same diet plan as somebody who happens to carry their weight in their glutes, and I'm not gonna look like that. Also too, really opened my eyes was the fact that, when I was so into fitness, it used to drive me crazy, because people would be like, eat more calories, eat more calories, eat more calories, you'll grow your glutes, you'll grow your muscle, you'll do all these kind of things. And I would do all that, and like, my whole midsection would just like balloon out. And it was like, okay, my glutes aren't growing, even though I'm doing all the workouts, I'm lifting all the weights, I'm lifting heavy, I'm doing all those things. And I didn't even realize that a lot of these fitness women are using some form of steroids. And it's not that it makes them not have to do the work. It's just that they don't have to eat as many calories to be able to lift as much. So they don't have to actually eat as much food. But for somebody who's not using steroids, to eat enough food, for most women, to eat enough food to build muscle is enough food that's going to make you gain body fat. That's just how women's bodies work. Like, we just have to accept to a certain point that women's bodies are designed to work a certain way, and that everything in the media is designed to make women think that the way our bodies are naturally is wrong. That just sums up the entire media system as it is, right? Most of these women that have these tiny little waists are either having liposuction, or, you know, some kind of plastic surgery procedure, or they are taking some kind of, you know, drug that is making their body look that way. All these things in the name of looking healthy, and then anyone who doesn't look like that is labeled as being unhealthy. Go figure. So yeah, that's one of my big lessons, is try to reprogram your brain out of thinking of fitness as being for aesthetic purposes, and think about it as, like, what do I want to experience in my life, and actually create a fitness routine. Or if you have the resources, you know, you can go to a trainer or go to somebody who's an expert, but go to somebody with goals in mind that are not just losing weight. And I will admit, you probably will have a difficult time finding somebody in the fitness industry who's a trainer, especially if you're a woman going to them. And if you're like, no, my goal isn't to lose weight, my goal is something else. Some of them are gonna be so excited, because they're gonna be like, oh, finally somebody who wants to train for something other than just aesthetics. But some of them are just not gonna, they're gonna be so programmed into like diet culture and stuff that they're just not gonna get it. So my advice, if you are gonna work with somebody, is to just, you know, try to find someone who is on the same wavelength as you. Please stop putting celebrities up on pedestals that are promoting a completely twisted and unhealthy, and in many cases dangerous, body image. Because I'm sorry, we cannot as a society get upset about larger models promoting obesity, but not equally get upset about underweight models or celebrities who are literally mutilating themselves to look a certain way, and not say that they are promoting eating disorders, and saying they are not promoting very dangerous behaviors. And I realize that there is the occasional model here and there that may have a natural body type like that, and there are women in all different shapes and sizes. But if we put a certain body image up on a pedestal, and there's only like 3 or 4 women in the world that actually have that body type, and the average woman is gonna have to do really dangerous things in order to get that body type, we are promoting eating disorders. We are promoting unhealthy behaviors. We are promoting dangerous behaviors. And we need to stop that. And I think as women, we need to step up and say, no, we won't accept that. We won't accept celebrities that are doing that to themselves. I did have a revelation. This was something else I was going to mention. It's really interesting when men start touting what's attractive, what's not. They start talking about their preferences, things like that. And they will put the idea of a woman being like fit up on such a high pedestal. But in reality, those men only like the fit when it is fits their image or it's for them. I've seen that recently, like a while back they actually did a research study about like the celebrity that men found the least sexy, and it was Sarah Jessica Parker. And I realize that Sarah Jessica Parker has a relatively unique look. She may not be for everybody. I think she's beautiful, but you know, she's not necessarily like, you know, a conventional look, but she's very fit. She has a very fit petite body type. Her body type and shape is something that most men would tout as the ideal. So I got to thinking, why would she be considered the least sexy celebrity? Because she is a bit older, and I get it, there's a lot of men who idolize that sort of 18 to 22-year-old range, but she's not the oldest female celebrity, and this was quite a few years ago when this survey came out, so she was even younger than she is now. But I got to thinking, like, why would she be considered the least sexy celebrity? She's a celebrity who's on a TV show literally called Sex and the City. That said, Sarah Jessica Parker's character, Carrie Bradshaw, her look, her image, and I would even say how Sarah Jessica Parker dresses on the red carpet and stuff like that, is very much for the girls. Even though her show is about Sex and the City, her show was about her sexual interactions with men, Carrie Bradshaw was designed to appeal to women. She was not a character that was designed to appeal to men. I have a video talking about Sex and the City. Carrie was very wounded. Her relationship with Big was, you know, whatever. But Carrie Bradshaw existed as entertainment for women. Sarah Jessica Parker, her look, her image, and Carrie Bradshaw, they're entertainment for women. There is a whole subset of men, it's not all men, but there's a lot of men like this, who get so resentful when there is any woman that exists in the world that is not solely there to cater to men's idea of what is sexy or men's sex appeal. So even though someone like Sarah Jessica Parker is absolutely within the perfect body shape range that most men put up on a pedestal, she still gets labeled as the least sexy celebrity simply because she's not catering to men. She doesn't look that way to cater to men, and she doesn't dress and act in a way that is catering to men. She's put up on a pedestal by women as a style icon or an image that is something that appeals to women and not to men. We've seen this very recently with Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie was seen as a sex symbol when she was in Wolf of Wall Street. When she was Harley Quinn, she was seen as a sex symbol. And yeah, she was a little bit younger back then, but like, it's not like she looks that much different now. It's not like she's aged poorly or anything. But they put her in the Barbie movie and all of a sudden guys are like, she's mid. Margot Robbie is not mid, let's be real. Margot Robbie is gorgeous. Now, if you look at high school photos of her, everybody touts her as being someone who's never had plastic surgery. Look at high school photos of her. She has had plastic surgery. Every female celebrity has had some kind of plastic surgery. So we need to be careful about putting women like that up on pedestals. However, Margot Robbie is not mid. She's not a mid-level attractive woman. Margot Robbie is gorgeous. There are going to be men, unfortunately, in the world who simply dislike her because she just starred in a movie. She didn't even write the movie, okay? She just starred in a movie that was not for men. She was dolled up. She was put in this image that is for women. This was meant to appeal to women, and it's not that it made her less attractive. As women, we know what attractive is. Every human on the planet knows what is attractive and what is unattractive. We all have variations of what we think is, you know, what we prefer and things like that. But generally speaking, every human knows when they see someone or something that is absolutely beautiful and when something is kind of like, you know what I mean? And Margot Robbie has never been like unattractive. That said, there are men out there that cannot handle when women are doing something that is catered to women and not catered to them. And that's where they start to get upset, and that's where they start to shame her or tell her she's less attractive. It has nothing to do with that her attractiveness changed. It has to do with the fact that there's certain types of men that can't handle when a woman's attractiveness is not solely for male pleasure or for, you know, male objectification. When they have to start seeing a woman as human, or when a woman starts catering to another woman, they start to resent it. And I absolutely believe that a lot of this and a lot of the way that men think about this kind of stuff and the preferences that men have are all related to porn culture, and I think I'm gonna do a whole video just diving into that, because I know this video is already really long and I could just go on about that all day. So I probably will do a separate video talking about that. I have another video where I touched on that topic, but I've done a lot more research and it's like even worse than I thought. So generally speaking, don't listen to men. And also, living a healthy lifestyle, an active lifestyle where you take care of your body as a feminine core being should be pleasurable. It should be enjoyable. Choose workouts, recipes, find the healthy foods, find the activities, the movements that actually bring you joy and pleasure. Don't spend your whole life on some diet where you're miserable. Life is too short for that. Find foods that you actually enjoy eating. It may take you a while to retrain your brain from eating. I mean, part of my thing was I was eating so many foods that were like not actual foods. They were diet foods that had like no calories, but they were full of chemicals. So when I actually started eating like actual food, my weight went up because my body was not used to having like actual food. It was used to the cheap chemicals. It doesn't mean that when I was eating all those like 0-calorie chemical stuff that I was healthier, but because my body was having fewer calories, it was losing weight. And when my body started eating actual real foods, it started to gain weight because it wasn't used to having extra calories. And our body, especially our feminine bodies, are so beautiful and intuitive. Our bodies want to keep us alive. So when your body has been in starvation mode for a long period of time, whether you've actually been starving it or whether you've been intermittent fasting, which is not meant for women, let me just say, I don't like giving blanket advice, but not meant for women. When your body has been starving for a long period of time, whether it be because you actually were starving it or because you weren't giving your body like actual calories, you were giving it empty calories or something, when you do start giving your body food, it's gonna hang on to all that weight, because your body doesn't know when you're gonna potentially be in starvation mode again, because your body wants to keep you alive. Honor that, love that. When you put on weight because you've been starving yourself for so long, realize that your body is not doing that to punish you. Your body is doing that to keep you alive, to keep you healthy. It wants you to be healthy. So instead of working against it, work with it. I've mentioned this in other videos, but one of the most important things a woman can do is to work with your cycle, with your feminine cycle, which I know nowadays most women don't have a regular cycle. It's very twisted. And I have videos about the cycle, and I could do a video about, you know, working with fitness in your cycle if you'd like. But working with your cycle, generally speaking, and not against it, is gonna help with your hormones, it's gonna help with your mental health, your physical health. This was kind of like a rambly, ranty video. There was just a lot of things that I really wanted to say about body image and the media and things like that. So I kind of was all over the place, but some of this stuff I just really wanted to get out, and I just thought I would make this video and just kind of put everything together. I'm sure it's gonna be a long video. If you're still with me, thank you for sticking around. If you want me to talk more about any of these particular topics or anything, let me know. If you have any thoughts or comments or anything, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and be sure you subscribe to my channel. If you're interested in connecting to your dark feminine energy, I have just released the Dark Feminine Energy Guided Journal. Details are in the description box below, along with links to all my social media accounts, including my new TikTok that I'm trying to grow from scratch because I was banned from TikTok with my original account. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.